So yeah, welcome everyone. This WP Beginner workshop is about supercharging your WordPress website speed. I'm Ryan Priddy. I am part of the WP Beginner video team, and at WP Beginner, one of our main goals is to create content that's easy to understand and helpful for small businesses, bloggers, and website owners. And these workshops are part of that. So we're thrilled to have you guys with us and join us on this workshop. I do have another member of the WP Beginner video team who's going to be hanging around in the chat, answering some questions for me whilst the workshop is going on. So if you do have any questions that you want, we're going to be looking at some simple optimizations that we can do to supercharge our website speed. And then finally, at the end of the workshop, we're going to be looking at how we can compare and contrast the test that we did earlier to the results after the optimization that we've been doing. And we'll also be looking at how we can track performance over time as well. So the first question I want to ask everyone is, why does speed matter when it comes to our WordPress site? So if you want to drop that in the chat, let's get a conversation going in there. Why do you think speed matters when it comes to our WordPress site? Okay, no takers. Well, speed matters when it comes to our WordPress site because yes, okay, they're coming through now. Better user experience, SEO user experience. Yeah, these are all really, really good answers actually. So speed matters because every second counts when it comes to our site. And why that is because if a website takes longer than 3 seconds to load, over half of our potential visitors will abandon it. Just think about that. Over half your traffic will abandon your site if your web page doesn't load within 3 seconds. And also, Google uses page speed as a ranking factor. And what that means essentially is that this can affect where your site appears in search results, which can impact the amount of traffic you get. So Google uses page speed as a ranking factor so that it understands where to place your site in search results. And the reason for that is fast loading pages offer a better user experience. So yeah, it's all about the people using your website. It's not about us having bragging rights as website owners, our site's faster than someone else's. It's all about the people using your website. And if you think about it, the reason this is because Google actually sets the bar for this user experience. When someone uses Google, or if we use Google and we do a search on Google, as soon as you hit enter on that search, you pretty much instantly get those search results within milliseconds. And Google wants this experience to continue on the pages it recommends at the top of the search results as well. So it only serves pages at the top of the results. Yes, they have great content, but also they have fast loading pages, which offer a better user experience. So we're going to look at this from a business impact point of view. And we're going to use this idea of a real world experience of imagine you're walking towards a store and the store's got glass, double doors, automatic doors. And as you get to the store and those doors, the doors just don't open, or they open very, very slowly. How long would you wait for those doors to open before you went to another store for what you wanted? For me, I'm not very patient, so I'd probably be leaving in maybe 1 or 2 seconds. And that's the same for people waiting for a slow page to load, or a slow website to load, sorry. But if we think about it from a business impact point of view, those people that own that store in the real life example that I gave, if they can see visitors coming to their store but not entering through those glass doors that just won't open or are slow to open, they can see those visitors coming and they can see them leaving and possibly going to their competition. The impact of that business is massive. How long before they want to fix those doors to let those customers in? It'd be pretty quick. So the same thing is what we want to replicate with our websites. We want our pages to load pretty fast so that it lets all these visitors and traffic into our site, which will equal more sales. So from that, fast websites equal happy visitors equal more sales. But we've covered why speed is important, but how is website speed measured? And for this, we're going to stick with Google because it's the biggest search engine around and they have tools that measure site speed. So with that, Google used something called Core Web Vitals to measure your website speed. And these are broken down into a few different measurements. The ones that we're going to focus on are here. I'm calling them the 3 pillars. And these are LCP, which is largest contentful paint. And this measures the loading performance of your page. Specifically, large items like images, text blocks, videos that appear in the viewport, which is a section that you can actually see. It will measure the speed of their loading. So if they're quite big, they're going to be slow to load. Google said that we should aim for 2.5 seconds or faster load time on those elements in that viewport. So the second measurement we're going to look at is IMP. This used to be called FID, but Google changed that in March. So IMP is interaction to next paint, and this measures the interactivity of your page. So basically what that means essentially for us is that if you have any elements on your page that someone can click on, so whether that's a navigation menu item, navigation menu in mobile, a submit button, or an add to cart, add to checkout button, Google's measuring how fast those items respond, and then they're recommending to keep the response to under 200 milliseconds. Now, for a blog, this might not be too impactful because if it's got a lot of text and content and not many buttons and interactive elements, but for things like e-commerce stores and things like that, this could be pretty big for those kind of websites and have quite a big impact. So we need to keep an eye on the IMP and just make sure that those elements on our site are interactive and under 200 milliseconds. And then for the third measurement, we're looking at the CLS, or cumulative layout shift, which measures the visual stability of that page. And what essentially that means is when a website loads, it loads in parts. And what Google want to see is when the page loads, all those parts don't move around too much. So in a real world scenario, if you were to go on a web page and it loaded and you saw the hero section, maybe an image, some text, and a button to read more about a certain item, and you click on that read more button, but at the exact same time, a banner ad or something loads at the top of the page and shifts that button down, and you end up clicking on a buy now button. Well, that doesn't offer a great user experience, and Google don't like things moving around once a page is loaded. So for that, they're asking us to strive for a CLS score of less than 0.1. Okay, so those are the 3 pillars of the Core Web Vitals. So how do we test our website speed? Well, there are 3 tools that we can use to test our website speeds, and they're easy to use. They're free to use as well. And we definitely recommend using all 3 to test your website speed at first. So the first tool we're going to look at is Google PageSpeed Insights. The second tool is GTmetrix, and the third tool is Pingdom. So with Google PageSpeed Insights, all you have to do is go to the URL. Yuvraj is actually going to drop links for all of the tools that thank you, Yuvraj, that all of the tools that I mentioned in this video. There are quite a few of them. So for the first tool, Google PageSpeed Insights, you'll go to the web page, you'll enter your website URL, and you click Analyze. And from that, Google does all of its magic and measures the website's our page speed, and then gives us a report. And this is kind of what the report looks like. So when you get your report, with Google PageSpeed Insights, it's broken into 2 tabs. You've got mobile and desktop for the core web vitals. And the reason it gives us those 2 things is because Google knows how important it is to measure the speed on mobile devices, just like desktop devices. We know that a lot of people use mobile devices to access our websites, so we want to make sure we're on top of the speed for both of those. And as you can see the largest contentful paint, interaction to next paint, and cumulative layout shift at the top there, along with a couple of others. And essentially, with a report like this, what you're looking for is everything to be in the green. If everything's in the green, then that's absolutely fine. You don't need to really make any adjustments. If anything's in the orange, that's a recommended to look at. You might need to change a couple of things. And if it's in the red, you definitely need to look at those things and see if you can figure something out to speed up that part of your site. So once you've done that with Google PageSpeed Insights, you then do the same thing with GT Metrics and Pingdom. So you can do all 3, one after the other, to get an overview of your site speed. Each one gives you different information, which can be really helpful, but also it gives you a really good overview of where your site is at the moment with your performance. And then that's something that we can use later on in this workshop. We'll have a look at comparing contrast with things after you've done your optimization. So, okay, so that's testing our website speed. And by having that knowledge and testing your website, you're already ahead of most website owners. Knowledge is power in this instance, and it's half the battle. Once you've got all that information, those tools will be able to give you some information as well on how to break down the different results you get and what to focus on. So now we've looked at what website speed is and how to test our website speed. We're going to go over some simple optimization techniques that anyone can do. You don't need to do any coding or anything like that. They're really simple to use and very, very effective as well. So the first one that we're going to look at is image optimization. And before we get into this, we've just think about how we get images for our websites. So most of the time people use either their phone like this or a camera like this to take images, photos, and put them on our website. And that's great. They give us fantastic images. Some of the most modern ones give us huge images that we can, put on canvases on our wall or put on the side of buildings, give us amazing detail. But all that detail and those images come at a cost. These high resolution photos have so much detail that the file sizes can be really, really big. And what a lot of people do is they'll just take that image and upload them to their website. And that's where the problem lies, because we're adding some files that are essentially too big for our website. We're then going to cause a page to those big files will be very slow to load. So that can cause problems with our page loading as well. And as you can see here, images make up 42% of an average web page's total weight. So if we think about it in that terms, pretty much all websites use images, and nearly half of the web page's total weight is going to be made up of images. So if we can get those file sizes smaller by compressing or even changing the dimensions of an image, then you can significantly reduce the time that they take to load, and also your page will take to load as well. The second technique we're going to look at is caching. And the way that caching works is basically caching is about saving copies of your website. So a page will load, as I've said before. When a page loads, it loads in parts, and it could have things in the background that are running as well when a page loads, and they all have to finish their job, basically their process, before that page fully loads. And if you think that could happen tens, hundreds, thousands of times for every visitor, then that could take a long time actually for each time for it to load. So what caching does is it stores copies of your web pages or parts of those web pages as temporary data, either in a server or on the web browser, and that causes those pages to load faster. And for repeat visitors, once they've visited your site once, this can drastically improve the load times of those pages. The third technique we're going to look at is database cleanup. And I'm not sure if everyone knows this, but WordPress stores a lot of things about your website in something called its database. So those will be comments, all of your content, users, settings for plugins and things like that. And if you can imagine, if you've got a website that's been around for a while, and over that, so maybe a couple of years, and over that time you've changed things, you've added more content to it, you've removed plugins, you've added more plugins, you've changed a lot of things. Well, all that stuff is added to the database all the time, and it never gets taken away. So over time, your WordPress database can gather lots and lots of data that you just don't need to run your website. And what we can do is we can actually remove and clean up all of that data that's not necessary to improve our website performance, which will then help with our website speed, because that database is a lot more smaller and easier to manage. So let's look at the first technique: how to optimize your WordPress images. And there's three things that we're going to think about when we're thinking about image optimization. It's the image file format. So that's the file the image is saved at, the format the image is saved at. Image compression. So that's the file size, so to do with the file size itself. And image dimensions. Well, that's the pixel size of the image. So what image file format should we use? Well, basically for photos and images with color, we should use JPEG. For simple or transparent images, so that's things like logos and things like that, they've got a transparent background, use PNG. And for animated images, if you want to use those on your website, use GIFs for those. Okay, so with image compression, and actually with adding images to your website in general, if you want to reduce their file size, I would recommend doing it before you upload them to your website. That's simply the best way to do it. It's the most efficient way to do it. So if you have image editing software like Photoshop or something like that on your computer, you can easily use that to do a lot of this. So if you use the export feature on Photoshop, you'll be able to choose the image file format. You'll be able to select the quality of the image that you're exporting, so you can make it higher quality or lower quality, sorry. And you can also choose the dimensions of the image as well before you export it. Image editing software like Photoshop actually give you an estimated file size whilst you're playing with those settings, so you'll be able to dial it in and save the file to a size that you want. Obviously, we want to try and compress that file size as much as possible, but we want to preserve as much detail as we can as well. So it's sometimes a bit of trial and error if you're using image editing software for doing that. But if you don't have image editing software on your website, on your computer, sorry, and you want a really easy way of compressing a file, so making that file smaller without losing much detail, well, there is a fantastic option for you, and I recommend using something like TinyPNG. Basically, it's a fantastic tool. I've used it loads and loads of times. It's helped me out a bunch. And what it does, it's a free online tool, and you simply drag and drop your images, as you can see here on the screen. You drag and drop your images into that box, and then TinyPNG will automatically compress those images into a smaller file size, but preserving all the detail. So for this, I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to show you this in action. So hopefully now you can see TinyPNG here, and I've got some images which I've basically downloaded from Unsplash. So all these images are full resolution, and you can see the file size is their original file size is right here. And TinyPNG right now is just automatically optimizing those images, and you can see the first one here is 74% smaller. So it's now gone from 2 megabytes to 499 megabytes. And the second one is 82% smaller. And then the third one here is 75% smaller. And then all you do is click on the download all button. That'll download those smaller images. They haven't lost any detail, so they'll still be high quality images, and you can upload them directly to your WordPress site and use them, and you'll know that you've optimized those images. So I'll stop sharing this right now. Let's go back to our presentation. Okay, so that's basically how you optimize your images with TinyPNG. And so we've talked about how to do that with images that are on your computer or from your phone and your camera. But what if you have images already on your website and that's being flagged up in your test results that basically you need to think about reducing the size of the images on your actual website? Well, there is a fantastic option for this as well. It's a WordPress plugin, and it's called Optimal. And basically what Optimal is it's exactly like TinyPNG, but just on your website. So it's fully automated, and you can basically set it up, let it do its thing. It'll scan all the images on your site. It will compress them, and it will make them into a smaller image size, a smaller file size, sorry, with the same quality as well. And I'll show you this as well. It's on one of my sites, a demo site that I'm using, just so you can see it working. So I'm just going to share that screen now. So this is Optimal. So basically the way that you add Optimal to your WordPress site is like how you do with any other plugin. Go to plugins, add new, search for Optimal, and then install and activate. When you activate Optimal, all you have to do then to get the free version of Optimal is input your email address and connect it to the Optimal site. And basically that will give you an API, and it will allow you to use Optimal completely for free up to 1K visitors as a monthly quota. So as you can see right here, I've let this run on this demo site, and I've got 34 images on the site, and it's optimized all those images. It's for the last 10 images, I saved 0.14 megabytes, but it did a lot more before that, and it's done 84.6% as an average compression. So all these images are now, as you can see, saved in a much smaller file size, which is fantastic. And you don't have to do anything. You just leave it running, and it will do the same for any images that you add to your site after you've added Optimal to your site as well. So all other images that you upload, it will make sure that they are fully optimized for your site. And it does store them in a cloud library as well. So that's a fantastic additional feature of Optimal. It will store your images in a cloud library, and it uses its CDN network for free as well. And what a CDN network is, a content delivery network that basically has servers around the world and will do copies of your images and save them at those servers. And if someone accesses your site from further away, on a different part of the world, it will serve those images, your images on your site, closer to that person. So that's a really, really cool tool. I'll stop sharing this now. And okay, so that's Optimal, and you can add that to your site, like I said, completely for free. And thinking about image dimensions. So yes, we can compress images using these tools, but if you have images that are just way too big in dimensions for your site, and you want to be able to edit those down, well, there is a free image editing tool that you can download to your computer. It's very similar to something like Photoshop, but it will allow you to resize images, and that's called GIMP. Okay. So now we've been through image optimization. How do we set up caching on our website? So there are two ways to reduce your page loading time through caching. One through website hosting, and another way is through a WordPress plugin. Let's go with website hosting first. There are some fantastic hosting companies out there that actually include caching as part of the packages for their customers. And when it comes to a hosting company offering you caching as part of their service, that's pretty much set up by them. So it'll be an enable button somewhere in your WordPress hosting account that you can enable caching for or disable it. And there won't be very many options in terms of what you can do with that caching. It'll be completely set up by them. It's a good idea actually to check with your hosting provider whether they actually offer that service or it's already part of your package, because that could give you a lot more, that could get you ahead in terms of having caching as part of your optimization. There are some links in the chat for Bluehost and Hostinger, which are two fantastic web hosting companies that actually offer caching as part of their packages. And if you click on those links, you'll actually get a fantastic deal as well for either of those providers. The second way of adding caching to your site or setting up caching for your site is to use a WordPress plugin. And caching plugins give you a lot more control than hosting caching, than hosting providers caching does. And it gives you more control over how your site loads, basically, which can reduce strain on your hosting services and resources. And we recommend, as a plugin that we recommend is WP Rocket. Basically, it's a fantastic plugin that doesn't just do caching. It does a whole lot of stuff. It does image optimization as well. But it is a premium plugin, but it's well worth thinking about if you want to have more control over your caching and maybe have some other features that it comes with. It's actually really well known for being one of the best caching plugins around, and it can drastically speed up your website speed and performance. So I can show you WP Rocket on my computer as well. So I'm just going to do that. So once you've download WP Rocket and then you install it on your computer, so you upload it to your site and install it and then activate, it will start doing its thing. Basically, as you can see here, I haven't touched any settings whatsoever. It's saying, congratulations, WP Rocket is now active and already working for you. So it's already started caching the site, and I don't have to do anything. I don't have to touch anything. It's basically already set up to run. And there are other settings as well that you can choose. You can do some file optimizations if you want to get into that. That's a bit more advanced. Media, you can set up different, select different settings for your media. Preload is for the caching, and there are things for CDN and image optimization as well in there as well. But yeah, really, I couldn't recommend WP Rocket more actually, because it gives you a lot more than just caching, but it's definitely well known for being a high quality plugin and has good support. And actually the paid plans for WP Rocket, the difference between them is basically whether you want to put it on one site or more sites. So you don't actually get any less features by buying the lowest pricing plan. It's just that that's geared towards one site's activation on one site. Okay, so okay, for some reason my slide's not working, which is always fun. Oh, there we go. There we go, we're back. All right. Okay, so that's covered caching. So hopefully that gives you a good idea of how you can do that, either using your hosting provider or also a plugin through your WordPress site. And as I said, why WP Rocket is a good plugin is it generates that static HTML file that you need, preloads the cache, and creates a separate mobile cache as well, which is really important. Actually, I forgot to mention that, but it does create a separate mobile cache. So if someone comes to your site using a smartphone, it will be served a different mobile cache. So different static pages geared around that specific device, and the same for desktop as well. So the third and final technique I'm going to show you is basically how to clean up your WordPress database. And before we think about actually cleaning up our WordPress database, because it's an integral part of our site, it's got all the data in for, as I said, comments, users, settings, all those things, your content. It's very important. Before you do any kind of cleaning up of your database, it doesn't matter what plugin you use, I would totally 100% recommend creating a backup of your WordPress site, just in case something was to go wrong. You could easily restore your site and be back to where you began. For that, we actually recommend using a fantastic plugin called Duplicator, as it's completely free to get started with, to use. And you can easily create a full backup of your site, and it will also give you the information you need to be able to restore that backup should you need it. It has fantastic other features like creating a backup schedule, so you don't have to keep on going back to your website and clicking the create backup button. You can create a schedule where it could be daily backups, weekly backups, monthly backups. It does have an option for a one-click restore with Duplicator Pro. It's fantastic for migrating your website. So if you actually want to move to a different hosting provider for any reason, Duplicator can help you do that as well. I'm going to show you Duplicator right now on my site and just show you how quick and easy it is to actually do a backup. So I'll just do that now. So share that page. And I'm just going to click on Duplicator down here. Okay, so this is Duplicator. This is the light version of Duplicator. As you can see, says that up at the top here. And I've already made a couple of test backups here on this demo site, so you can see those. But to do a complete backup of your site, it couldn't be easier. All you need to do is click on Create New right there. And then you've got a 3-step process. We can add the name of the backup if we want. So if you want to call the backup a specific thing, you can do that right here. If you click on the storage section, you can see that this backup, because we're using Duplicator Lite, we get one option, and that's backing up to a local device, our local server. But we can also, with Duplicator Pro, back up our site to multiple locations at once. So you can use Amazon, AWS, Dropbox, Google Drive, OneDrive, or you can use FTP. And if you click on the backup zip, you can choose whether you want to back up all of your website or just the database only. And if you're backing up all of your website and you're using shared hosting, sometimes large websites might get stuck in the backup process. So if you've got a large website and it's got a lot of content on it, there is a filter button right here, checkbox. If you want to enable that, then you can put a filter on for your WP uploads, which basically will be your images, videos, anything that you've uploaded, and that can reduce the file size of your website and make it easier to back up. If you want to do that, I'll leave it like that. And then you've got the installer options as well, which you can just leave. I click next, and then Duplicator is going to do its thing and scan the website. It's going to be pretty quick at that, and it's going to tell you how everything is. So basically, is everything good to go? You might get a notice here, and like I said, sometimes when you've got a larger site, it'll give you a notice to let you know that this might not work. But in my experience with this, it has actually worked. So all you need to do then is click on the build button, and then Duplicator will take a few moments to actually build a backup of your website. Once you've done that, I'll just click on backups here. You will get a screen to download 2 files for your backup. Definitely do that. Download them to your computer if you can. And those files will be the installer and the backup of the entire backup of your website. And sorry, if you keep them somewhere safe, then you can always have access to them. And the way that you do that is you basically upload them to the file manager of your website, and then access it, the installer, by going to, that's just Duplicator. It's fantastic. It's not just for this use case, but it's a pretty good idea from a security point of view for you to actually have backups of your website and be able to restore. So Duplicator is a fantastic option if you want to do that. So please check it out. Okay. So once you've done a backup of your website, obviously, then you can move on to optimizing your site through cleaning up your database. Sorry. And to do that, we recommend using something like WP Optimize. And the reason we say to use WP Optimize is because it basically is pretty much the best database cleaner that you can get, and it'll clean up things like your database tables, your trash posts, your spam, your trash comments, all those things, those unnecessary things that build up in your database over time that you just don't need to run your website. And you can clean those up pretty much in a click. So I will show you this on my site. But for this, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to deactivate. So with WP Rocket, so if I go to WP Rocket does actually come with the option to clean up a database. So you can do that right here. So if you choose to get WP Rocket and pay for that product, you will be able to do the database cleaning up in WP Rocket. But if you're not going to use WP Rocket for caching, maybe you've got hosting, caching with your hosting or something like that, then you can use WP Optimize. And I'm just going to switch these over because I don't want two caching plugins to clash basically on my site. So hold on, deactivate this. Just deactivate that plugin. And then I'll activate WP Optimize. Okay, and then we can see WP Optimize is now on my site. Okay, and this is WP Optimize. So basically the reason I deactivated WP Rocket is they are both caching plugins. WP Optimize does have caching functionality if you want to check that out. It doesn't come with as many options as WP Rocket, but if this is something you're going to think about, then check out WP Optimize for that as well. But for database cleaning up, all you need to do in WP Optimize is come down to this section under the database tab, and you can see that it's automatically checked a lot of these things to clean up. So you've got optimized database tables, clean all post revisions, all auto draft posts, trash post and things like that. And you can see the number of things that it will clean under my database as well. And there are other things below that you can check to optimize as well. There is a warning down here that says that some of these, if you clean some of these, they can be quite intensive database cleaning and can cause some options. But if you've backed up your website, that shouldn't be a problem. So then all you need to do is click on run all selected optimizations, and that will clean up the database for your site. Okay, so now we've been through the 3 different optimization techniques. We can look at this, and this is something I want you to think about. Fast websites don't happen by accident. As you can see, there are several things that you can do to help optimize your site for speed, and they are a result of deliberate, consistent action. And from that, what I mean is they should become more of a routine. So if you can think about doing these things possibly once a month, but definitely when you make quite big changes to your website, add more plugins, take plugins away, then you should start thinking about optimizing for speed at those times. And part of this process of keeping on top of your website speed optimization is to be able to measure your improvements as you go. So how do we measure our improvements? Well, quite simply, we just repeat the process in the first part of this workshop. We use the same tools, so Google PageSpeed Insights, Pingdom, GTmetrix. After we've done all of our optimizations, we test our site again, and we see, compare and contrast where our site is once we've done those optimizations. But over time, we might want to routinely track our website performance, and companies that do that see up to 20% more customer engagement on their sites. And if we think about at the very start of this workshop, when we looked at the real life scenario of, walking up to a store and those people seeing their customers go on to maybe their competition and stuff, and also knowing that over half of our visitors will leave our site if our page doesn't load within 3 seconds. So if we can make those improvements on our site, we could see a lot more engagement on our site, and we can also have more sales on our site as well. Some of the things that we can do to measure performance over time is use tools like Google Analytics. So Google Analytics is a fantastic tool. Obviously, it shows a lot of your website traffic data all in one dashboard, and specifically to do with website performance, it will monitor things like page load time, bounce rates, user interactions, which will give you more information over time. You can see how those things progress, and you can choose different time frames to compare against. Same with Google Search Console. It's a fantastic tool in itself, but it does give you specifically an area where you can see any speed related issues that it's detected, and it will give you some recommendations on that as well. And both these tools are fantastic, and you can definitely go to Google Analytics for free and connect it to your site and measure your traffic data and all that kind of stuff. But sometimes Google Analytics can be a bit too technical for a lot of people. You can spend a lot of time searching around for specific data, and sometimes that's just not feasible for a lot of people. You want to be able to see things when you want to see them, all in one dashboard. And for that, I recommend using something like Monster Insights. So what Monster Insights does is it's a really great way of tracking everything to do with your WordPress traffic, your data from your WordPress dashboard. So you don't have to leave your website to see a lot of these things. So you don't have to go to Google Analytics, Google Search Console. You can see all these things from your WordPress dashboard. And it'll also help you set up your Google Analytics tracking as well without having to add any code whatsoever. So it makes that a super easy process. And not only does it let you see your traffic, but it also breaks it down into really easy to understand reports. It makes it really easy to kind of see everything that you want to see when you want to see it. And it also provides your site speed as well, as along with the other data. And I'm going to show you what that looks like right now. I'm going to share my screen again. So down here, I've got Monster Insights. I'm going to click on that. Now, just have to remember that this is a demo website, so there isn't going to be much traffic here, possibly a couple of visits very recently. So this is the overview report that you get in Monster Insights, and this is where you'll see your website traffic. Below that, you'll be able to see all your different data at a glance as well. And some of this is really, really good for understanding how your users are interacting with your website and what their user experience is going to be, or has been, sorry. But right here, this is a site speed tab. So if you click on that, you'll be able to get a site speed report straight away. This is for mobile and for desktop as well. Below that, so if we click on mobile, be able to see that there's some information here about how to improve some of these figures that we've talked about here. So largest contentful paint. On this site, there's still some work to be done there, but Monster Insights does give you some information about how to improve that. And like I said, what we should be aiming for as well. It's a really, really fantastic tool. I definitely recommend using it for tracking your website data in general. Gives you great reports and things in here that you can, go back to and just look at over time. So I'll stop sharing that. So now we've been through everything. So now we've seen, we've been able to, we know what why website speed is important, how to test our website speed, some simple optimization techniques that can help supercharge our website speed, and also how to track our performance over time and use tools to see how our website is doing and our user experience on our website. Because you've come to this workshop and we absolutely love the WP beginner community and the WordPress community as a whole, because you come to this workshop, we really want to say thank you by giving you 10% off our WP Beginner Pro services. If anyone actually knows what our pro services are, please write them in the chat, because it'd be great to see if you can, if how many people know about our pro services. It was something that we started a few months ago. But essentially, pro services are web design. We've got WordPress maintenance. We've got website emergency support. So if you have a problem with your website and you need something done really quickly, you can get in touch with us for that. We fix hacked WordPress sites. We have a WordPress speed optimization package as well. So if there's anything that is a little bit more advanced in terms of issues with your website, anything a little bit more technical that we haven't covered in this workshop, then you can definitely get in touch with our team for speed optimization, and they can help you out with that. And also, more importantly as well, there's an SEO service that is fantastic as well, that you can get in contact with the team for as well. So for the 10% off pro services, you just go to the checkout and use the code WPB special. So that's the coupon code for our pro services. And I'm just looking at the chat. So John says pro services rebuilt my site. That's fantastic. I love that. So yeah, so if you want 10% off our pro services, there are some people in there that know what it is. Then go to the website. I think Yuvraj has dropped the URL, the link in the chat. So find that again. Maybe Yuvraj can drop it again if there we go. So if people want it, use that coupon code, you get 10% off. Just thanks so much, guys, for joining us on this workshop.